In chapter 1107 of One Piece, we see Sanji literally kick a laser. Written as a bullet point, just something with text without any context. I wouldn't say that this is the biggest deal ever. The world of One Piece is a notoriously wacky place where we see some pretty fantastical feats. People cut mountains, they jump on air, they see the future, and throw literal ocean currents. Kicking a laser beam? Sure. But that was, in fact, not the reaction that we got from everybody else. Kizaru, the light laser beam guy, acted like he had never seen such a thing occurred before. Frankie, who also utilizes a laser beam as a primary weapon, is simultaneously utterly shocked. So I believe that we know that something special is occurring here. And in the pursuit of an answer here, I might have stumbled upon something game-changing. Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, I saw this excellent Reddit thread which perfectly explained why Sanji kicking a laser is a big deal. I'll go ahead and link that thread in the description. We see in Wano Zoro compare one of King's attacks to a laser beam, and he says, how can you block that? It's a laser beam. Obviously we know that nobody's ever blocked Kizaru's lasers just based on Kizaru's reaction to it. But going back to Marineford, his fight with Marco regenerated from the lasers, he did not block them. Likewise, Rayleigh kicked Kizaru's leg, not the actual laser. Even thinking back to the Pacifista and their laser powers, we've never seen someone actually block the lasers, they just dodged them. Honestly, this one scene added so much more context to the creation of the Pacifista in the first place, why Vegapunk and the world government thought it was awesome to give them laser beams, because it is really a formidable power. Even going to the beginning of Egghead, Edison freaks out when Frankie is preparing to shoot a laser beam at S-Shark the Seraphim. He says dodge that S-Shark, and seems very relieved that it missed. The Seraphim are obviously very tough. Known armament hockey users have faced them, and so far have done very little damage to them. But Vegapunk thinks a laser is one step too far. So what's so scary about a laser? But before I explain that, I want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by Kalshi, the new anime stock market where you can put money on your opinions regarding anime and manga. It's the only place where you can trade on anime in all 50 states. The anime awards are this week. If you think you already know who will win awards like Anime of the Year, Best Film, Best Main Character, and Best New Series, check out Kalshi and AnyUp today. So use my link in the description to get $20 in trading credits after you make your first trade. And always remember to gamble responsibly. Let's talk some science for a moment. I just ask for your patience if you already know this stuff. Obviously not all laser beams are created the same. You guys might possess a laser pointer and use it to play with your cat. So what's the difference between that and an actual dangerous weapon? And the simple answer is energy. The higher the energy, the light, the more powerful the weapon. That's pretty intuitive. So with a higher energy light, is it just like brighter? No. Light is electromagnetic radiation. Just the same that is present in a microwave, or that you hear through the radio, or you hear about UV radiation from the sun or X-rays. All of that is essentially the same thing. It's all light, but at different energy levels. What makes visible light special is really simply because we can see it. Our eyes possess the ability to translate these electromagnetic waves into what we see as colors. Similarly but different, we don't see infrared light, but we can feel it as heat. It's not that infrared intrinsically possesses the qualities of heat, it's just how our bodies interact with it. Kind of how UV radiation is primarily responsible for sunburn, but you don't actually feel it. But in essence, electromagnetic radiation is a very common form of energy. When you set wood on fire, electromagnetic radiation is produced, some of which we see as light, some of which we feel as heat, and some of which we don't really interact with at all but exists. So outside of the realm of science fiction, when you're actually talking about a laser beam, you're really talking about high energy light that we cannot see. This has been big in the news over the last 10 years or so. Advancements in technology have allowed for the creation of directed energy weapons. They are laser beams, utilizing, for instance, microwaves, and they are now being commonly used in global warfare. As a side note, there's some interesting conspiracy theories related to this if you're into that. So you have these energy beams. Energy is loosely defined as the ability to make change. The more energy, the more change. When you fire a directed energy weapon at, for instance, a ship or a car with fuel, you provide that fuel with enough energy to combust. It explodes. But I don't think that there's actually a theoretical limit to what you could actually do with this. Fuel combusting makes sense to people, but with the hypothetical energy of a star, things like heavy metals would only exist in a gaseous form. Meaning if you fired a weapon with this level of energy, something like a car would just vaporize, which is truly frightening. Now consider the weapon that Emu used in order to destroy Lolosia. Yeah, that, my friends, is the power of the sun. So generally speaking, it makes sense for Vegapunk to be afraid of lasers. But of course, most lasers, even within the world of One Piece, do not possess this level of energy. That's what makes Imu's weapon special. But even less potent lasers can cause harm. And in my opinion, this is what Vegapunk was afraid of. Not necessarily that Frankie's laser was going to totally obliterate the Seraphim. Rather, radiation can have an effect on your actual DNA. Or in One Piece terms, maybe your lineage factor. Radiation commonly causes cancer. Cancer is caused by damage to your DNA. It's just like the example of the directed energy weapon pointing at a car. The actual metal or chassis of the car may be relatively unaffected, but the fuel explodes. Likewise, the same sort of thing can occur within your very own body, in ways you don't immediately feel. Radiation poisoning is no joke. So I believe that we have established that lasers are scary, but we are still left with the question of how and why Sanji can kick them. This is gonna be wild, guys, so buckle up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the bell to be notified. You guys already know this one is why you are here. I find it fitting that all of this has taken center stage in the story in the Egghead arc. The Egghead arc where our main protagonist of the island is Vegapunk, designed based on Albert Einstein. I'm sure you guys are already familiar, the famous equation of Einstein. E equals mc squared. But maybe some of you are wondering what the equation actually means. And in simple terms, this is energy is matter, or matter is energy. Different states of the same thing. You, yes you, who I'm talking to through the screen right now, you, your physical person, you are energy. It's kind of overwhelming if you really sit down and think about it, but you are composed of a lot of different things brought together. Your DNA is a sort of blueprint, but the actual building blocks are acquired through your life and sometimes your parents' life. It's why we need to eat food. We break down matter and we convert it into usable energy. But all of this matter or all of this energy really originates from somewhere else. For the earth itself and the beings on it, this is the sun. How were you actually made? Inside of a star. Just like light. Light is energy. Energy is matter. Matter is light. Simply existing in a different state. Maybe you think this is a wildly stupid equivalence, but at the very least, Imu and the Gorosei seem to agree with me. They refer to specific lives as light, needing to be erased. Life is light. Maybe you could say that we're all like little, very dim stars. If you strip it back all the way to its ancient roots, what even is a star? I can already hear people furiously typing based on our current understanding of like, well, a star is a sun like ours, but elsewhere. Some bigger, some smaller, some dimmer, some brighter, some we can only see with the most advanced technology, some we still can't see, but assuredly exist. But in a more classical sense, a star is simply a light in the sky at night. And for many thousands of years, this included things like planets. Venus is one of the brightest stars in the sky, despite not technically being a star or a sun. If the moon were a little bit farther away, I think that it probably would have also been classified as a star, the brightest in the sky. But think about planets elsewhere orbiting in distant solar systems. Are they stars? Most would tell you no. But if you were a bit closer to them, they would be. They are simply too dim to see with the naked eye in our night sky. In fact, many of them, most of them, all of them practically, are too dim to be seen with the greatest technology possible currently. But if we could see quite a bit better, then your perspective would change. And this is precisely the point. Put an astronaut somewhere in the middle of deep space. If you could see well enough, it would also be a star. We do in fact emit a very tiny amount of light. So the Gorosei are in fact elder stars, and everybody else a little bit younger. And so this brings us back to Sanji. Sanji, the same as everybody else, is a light, or a star. The only difference is that you can see it. The journey of following Sanji's powers throughout the series is crazy. Initially, Sanji was just a chef, having some resistance to fire. As a chef, made a lot of sense. It also wasn't that deep. Then, of course, Enies Lobby happened, and suddenly, Sanji's foot is catching fire. The thought at the time was that this was a result of friction. Doesn't really make all that much sense, but okay. A fan even posed this question to Oda, which he included in an SBS, of like, why doesn't Sanji's flames actually burn him? As was rightfully logical to assume, fire is hot, fire burns, and Oda had the audacity to troll this fellow. Sanji's flames do not burn him because his heart burns so much hotter. Thank you, Oda-san. Seemingly encouraged, also probably amused, he dug his heels in deeper. In Thriller Bark, now all of Sanji is just spontaneously combusting. He is literally on fire. And it's definitely related to his emotional state. So at this point, we get it. It's a joke. It's a joke, right? Right? Power of love. Oda is having himself a laugh. Theorizing this is pointless, right? Wrong. Love is a very real power in the world of One Piece. I know that you guys have been waiting for me to say it. E equals mc squared. Matter is energy. All lives are light. Light is energy. Sanji himself burns like a star. Sanji somehow has tapped into the power latent within all life. He can actively convert his matter into energy, and this is in some way related to love. What's convenient about this theory is it's not necessarily restricted to Sanji specifically. Big Mom also catches fire and is seemingly not burning. Love is also very important to Big Mom's character. Even though she expresses it in a way that many people do not understand, you can definitely argue that Big Mom is full of love, just like Sanji. When Luffy uses Red Hawk or Red Rock, he's thinking about Ace, a person he loves. When Sanji kicks Kizaru's laser, he gives an explanation. Love is greater than light. While we've approached this theory more scientifically up until this point, you guys know that I talk a lot about Buddhism. And I talk about it so much because I believe the story of One Piece itself is a parable for Buddhism. Through its themes, it teaches it in a very not obvious way. But just like we've been talking about with Albert Einstein, E equals mc squared, matter is energy, Buddhists have a similar belief. Yet also within this, we find the softer science of love. Buddhists believe that love is the essence of all energy. Love, according to Buddhism, is unending because the energy it gives you comes from the cosmos. I don't really want to get all into this discussion, and frankly, I don't think that I'm capable of doing that. But as far as One Piece is concerned, I believe that you should think of love as energy, a form of it, similar to electromagnetic radiation. So when Sanji talks about the power of love, he means this quite literally. But despite saying this and potentially having this understanding, does it fully make sense yet? And I would argue no. We still need a reason, like an actual reason why Sanji possesses this power to a greater extent than most everybody else. Is it simply because he loves more than everyone else? He is kinder than anyone else? Yeah, that could be part of it, but maybe not all of it. So let's evolve this theory by adding a new dimension to it. Let's explain the true nature of the Vinsmoke children. We know that Judge Vinsmoke altered his children's lineage factors. He made them superhuman. But with Sanji, it's a little bit confusing, because we're led to believe that Sora, Sanji's mother, also utilized the power of science in order to prevent Sanji's transformation. So rather than him being augmented, Sanji from the very beginning has just been a normal human, with an intrinsic capacity for love. However, I think that this notion has become questionable from the moment that Sanji wore the Germa raid suit and then literally unlocked the power of science within him. Clearly, it's not as straightforward as we thought. Sanji is certainly not a regular human. So it's time for a theory you have probably never heard before. Sora didn't actually undo the Vinsmoke technology within Sanji. Instead, she added to it. While all the other siblings are made in the image of Judge Vinsmoke, Sanji was truly created, scientifically, by both of his parents. Maybe to best express this, we have to begin with the Sanji that never was. We all know that each of the Vinsmoke children possess unique, specific powers. They all don't have the same power, but all the powers share the same theme, and that theme is energy. Remember guys, energy exists in many different states, and with the right methods, you can convert one form into another. A big component of, possibly the biggest component of, human advancement has been the ability to convert different kinds of energy into electricity. Without this, you wouldn't be watching me right now. This is the secret of the Vinsmoke siblings. Niji is intrinsically affiliated with electrical energy. Yonji is mechanical energy. Reiju might appear as though she has poison-based abilities, but I believe that her actual power is chemical energy. And of course, Sparking Red Ichiji is heat or light energy. Now, it's actually still curious how these powers work. Reiju, for instance, has to actually eat reactive chemicals in order to power her poison. But Reiju was also a prototype made before the other siblings. We don't see Niji eating electricity as an example. So maybe Judge Vinsmoke improved this technology by allowing Niji to eat essentially everyday regular human food and then convert it into usable electrical energy. So with this being said, right, we have the opportunity for a very interesting thought. What was the type of energy that Sanji was supposed to possess? But what we know for a fact is that all of the Vinsmoke epithets, all of their designs, their suits are built around the powers that they are supposed to have. Our clue for Sanji is Stealth Black, and the ability that he has showcased so far is the power of invisibility. To me, this implies that the energy that Sanji was supposed to be able to utilize is gravitational energy. I know that most understand what a black hole is, but for those who don't, a black hole is the greatest feat of gravity. When a supermassive star dies and can no longer support its own mass, it collapses into a singularity. The gravity around this point is so extreme that not even light can escape. But even with a less extreme example, objects of great mass or objects of great gravity bend light. And through the bending of light, you can create invisibility. So this is what I think that stealth black is supposed to mean. Black in reference to black holes, their gravity. Sanji utilizing this at a lesser level in order to become invisible. Sanji even says after his transformation that he feels like he has greater weight. So now I think we have a better explanation for how Sanji was able to kick Kizaru's laser beam. He possesses the power of gravity. He can convert his own energy into gravitational energy, and is capable of bending light. But some of you might be wondering, doesn't this contradict what we said before? What Sanji even stated in the story, he kicked the light because the power of love is greater than light. Where does love fall into all of this? So I think it's prudent to remind you guys that this was what Sanji was initially intended to be. But Sora made him so much more. I think that a lot of people get this confused, but the Vinsmoke children are not lacking in emotion. They possess emotions very clearly at certain times, such as anger, lust. Really, Judge Vinsmoke removed their compassion, their love. Sora was a scientist on the same level as Judge Vinsmoke, and she was obviously intimately aware of his research. In part, they designed the children together. I would also guess that she had an understanding of how Judge Vinsmoke removed the siblings' capacity for love. So she attempted to return it the only way that she knew how. She treated love as a distinct form of energy. This is effectively the 6th different Vinsmoke power. Sanji is stronger than all of his siblings because he possesses the ability to manipulate 2 different kinds of energy, gravity and love. But you may be wondering, and certainly I was wondering, why only Sanji? Why didn't the other Vinsmoke children also possess the attribute of love to go along with their native power? This is even more headcanon than everything else, but it's a cool thought in my mind. Blackbeard is another character in the story associated with gravity. The powers of gravity suck everything in. Maybe then it's fitting for Sanji, the Vinsmoke who can manipulate gravitational energy, to have been the only one to consume Sora's love. And with this surprising connection, Sanji became the Vinsmoke's greatest achievement. But I'll have you know, guys, we're not done yet. I still don't think that we have made Sanji strong enough. The law of conservation of energy. Simply stated, this law means that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. If you imagine the entire universe, all of the energy that would exist within, you would probably tell me that the total amount is infinite. The number is assuredly very, very large, but it's probably finite. Energy is not added or removed from the system. It merely changes its form. Sanji, as it seems to me, appears to be a contradiction to this law. The hotter Sanji burns, the more energy he is producing. Or consuming, not really sure. Either way, it's implied in Sanji's fight vs. Queen when he debuted the power of Ifrit that he always could have burned hotter. It was his body which held him back. How is this possible? Where did this energy come from? Why is Sanji's power seemingly unlimited? Well guys, to address this problem, I think it's important to bring up another thing in the world of One Piece which also seemingly does this, and that is the Devil Fruit. Sanji's eyebrows have been a mystery since the very beginning of the story. Readers saw it and questioned, like, why does he have weird eyebrows? Theories have existed for a long time, many years, comparing Sanji's eyebrows to the swirls that are seen on Devil Fruit. We've obviously spent this whole theory talking about energy in all of its various forms. For the Vinsmoke and the power of science, these are energy forms that real-life science commonly accepts. But then when talking about Buddhism, we've included this new form of energy, love. So maybe we can take this further. Guys, what if, for a second, everything that is a devil fruit, what if all of these things are a distinct form of energy which actually exists? Typically, we like to classify energy as energy and matter as matter, but matter is energy. In fact, everything that exists is essentially the same, simply existing in a different state. Maybe this is how the devil fruit works. Each devil fruit contains the energy, the wavelength of a particular whatever you can conceive of. I believe this is actually alluded to in the story. When talking about Buddhism, of course, you need to talk about Zoro, the Buddhist character in One Piece. And in Alabasta, as he fought Mr. One, he unlocked the ability to hear the breath of all things. Inanimate objects and possibly intangible concepts have their own presence, or energy. As Zoro was in this near-death state, some sort of boundary between life and death, heaven and hell, he had the ability to perceive this. So devil fruits which channel this energy possess a swirl, the same as Sanji's eyebrows. Perhaps the swirl is meant to represent energy. In SBS Volume 7, when a reader asked Oda about Sanji's curly eyebrows, he said this: "Hey, you there, sit down. Now listen, everyone lives in circles. The sun, the moon, the earth all spin in circles. And if the earth suddenly stopped spinning, the planet would be covered in tidal waves. It would be terrible." Now remember that Sanji's eyebrows channeled this same powerful circular energy, reflect upon this. You may go. As I was making this theory, my first instinct was that this didn't really fit into what I was speculating. Stealth Black Sanji is more so gravitational energy. Also don't know how circles relate to love. Maybe Oda's original idea was to give Sanji rotational energy. When he first unlocked his fire leg, he had to spin. Maybe Oda just simply changed his mind. But then digging a little deeper, I found a different connection. The Zen Buddhist symbol of Enso. The Enso circle is one of the deepest symbols in Japanese Zen, and essentially the symbol conveys everything that we've already been talking about in this entire video. The oneness of the cosmos. It is the symbol of enlightenment, or the realization that everything is energy, or spirit. It is the Heart Sutra, if you are familiar with that. But this symbol also bleeds into another. A famous form of Enso is the Sun Enso. The sun likewise is depicted as a circle. It is also an incredibly common symbol in the story of One Piece. Here are some things that I found. In broad daylight, everything comes together in a circle and bears fruit. The brilliance of the truth reveals all. Nothing can be hidden, and one's fruit will be known. We now know that Luffy's devil fruit is the sun god Nika. The sun as a symbol in the story of One Piece is related to him. But there's a curious connection between Luffy as Nika and energy. In Egghead, we were introduced to Ancient Kingdom technology, the ancient giant robot, and we're told that in the past it was powered using the Eternal Flame. Vegapunk unsuccessfully attempted to recreate this technology in the form of the Mother Flame, which Emu got their hands on, and presumably utilized it to turn on the weapon which destroyed Lolosia. A weapon which, at the very beginning of this video, we argued contained the power of the sun. Everything vaporized. But then in Egghead, something strange happened. Luffy went Gear 5th. He activated his Nika powers, and his heartbeat, seemingly, has turned the robot back on. Luffy's Devil Fruit is in some way related to the Eternal Flame. Everything that exists, everything, was made inside of a star. And when Luffy goes Gear 5th, he believes that he can do anything. I believe that everything that is, everything that exists can be found within Luffy. If he can dream it up, it can be done. The energy of Nika is special. So let's put a bow on top of this theory. I've mentioned this in prior theories, but I really think that the Nika fruit was the original devil fruit. All the other ones spawned because of it. Its powers. Or, at the very least, Nika's powers relate to whatever spawned the devil fruit. Guys, it is very clear that Nika is the god of joy. Right? Nika itself means it's a sound effect for smiling. In Buddhism, Dharma is the doctrine, the universal truth common to all individuals at all times. Dharma is what our souls seek. It is the Buddha's teachings, the path to enlightenment, and the symbol which represents it is a wheel. It looks a lot like a pirate ship wheel, and it's at this point that the story starts to come alive, and you can almost physically feel the importance of adventure, what that means in the story, the pursuit of freedom. The Buddha described the purpose of the Dharma, his teachings, as the liberation of the heart, which is love. You need to throw aside your Western conceptions of the word love, or think of it in a more godly sense. Buddhism cultivates 4 kinds of love, called the boundless states, or the 4 immeasurables: loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and of course, joy. It is my opinion that the eternal flame in the story of One Piece is love. This is why Vegapunk called his version the Mother Flame, related to a mother's love. And it is this boundless energy which powers Nika the sun god, as well as Sanji the cook. For a moment, I want you to think about the Seraphim and their weird star pupils. Vegapunk has created something very close to the eternal flame and the mother flame, but it isn't quite right. I believe that the Seraphim are powered using a distinct form of energy, and their eyes are a clue in the same way as Sanji's eyebrows. I believe they're powered to be derivative of light, Kizaru's light, but as Sanji tells us, love is stronger. With Sanji, based on his hairstyle, one eyebrow is always covered, and recently we've seen his eyebrows change direction. But I think that as he further taps into his powers, it will be revealed that his 2 eyebrows together will form the symbol of the heart, swirling with the energy of the eternal flame. Guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this theory. It was kind of a task in order to figure out how to put this together, but I feel pretty happy with the result. If you like it as much as I enjoyed creating it, please share it. If any one video I've ever made takes off, I really hope that it's this one. But that can't happen without your help. The algorithm is not a big fan of me. And once again, a big thank you to my sponsor today, Kalshi. But either way, I'm curious as to what you think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Feel free to check out my book, The Booms, link in the description. Like the video, subscribe subscribe, click the bell to be notified, join the squad, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.